Hello again, everybody. My name is Mike Petralia. This is Jared Weiss, and this is the Garden Report Part 2 for September 1st, 2017. Finally, the day arrived, Jared, where Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were on the stage together along with Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens. A lot of funny moments, I thought, for a press conference that was long anticipated. And I want to talk here in Part 2 of the Garden Report powered by FanDuel about the kind of grief that that Brad Stevens was giving Kyrie Irving about his defense. Kyrie Irving kind of acknowledging through back channels up on stage that maybe his defense could use some improvement. And Brad Stevens said that I coached you in a game where we gave up 195 points. How will Brad Stevens make the best use of Kyrie Irving on both ends of the court?
I mean, it's kind of up to Kyrie, really. You know, Kyrie has been known to be the only defender that's actually considered worse than him at the NBA in his position happens to be Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
So, you know, defense is all about effort, awareness, and being proactive. And that's something that Kyrie has never really done consistently in the past. We've seen him be able to do it on occasion. He locked down Steph Curry in the finals a couple years ago. He's capable of doing a lot of great things. Being the leader that he wants to be, fulfilling all the things that he said up there on stage today, that requires him to put in a level of effort and consistency that he hasn't done before. To be a great player, you have to be a two-way player.
Right.
The only guys that get away with it are James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and those guys have the highest usage rates we've ever seen in our lives. So Kyrie needs to be committed to doing it, needs to be committed to learning how to be smarter about it. The team thinks he can do it. Based on that report from Howard Beck that came out yesterday, a Bleacher Report, apparently Cleveland thinks he can do it. Everybody else in the league does not think he can do it. So, you know, Kyrie is putting all this pressure on himself. I like the fact that he's basically saying this whole thing is about putting the pressure on myself to be the best. And, I mean, we're just have to wait and see on that one.
So one of the points that Brad Stevens made, and Kyrie Irving as well, the most important day will be the first day of training camp that these guys all get together. Actually, the first day team meeting before training camp actually officially begins. What do you think Brad Stevens' message is, not only to Kyrie Irving, but Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, everyone else on this team, when the Rubik's Cube, as Steve Bulpett mentioned to Danny Ainge, has been busted, you know, to start this season?
Well, there's no clear leader on this team. I think obviously Al Horford will maintain that senior leadership status there. But, you know, Kyrie made a point that I think was not a veiled shot at LeBron, but kind of referencing why he wanted to be out of Cleveland, is that he didn't want to feel worried about stepping on someone else's toes and vice versa. So these three guys are clearly the leaders of the team. They need to establish a dynamic where the three of them are supporting each other and leading by example for the rest of the team, and that all the other young guys like T-Row and Marcus, everybody else that they referenced, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they're looking at them and they're following their model, and there's not yelling at each other. There's not contradicting each other. It's all about being lockstep with each other. They don't have that continuity that they had from years past. And they're basically building up from the ashes to a degree, but they still have Horford in there. They still have Smart, who's a tremendously hard worker, super aggressive guy, a get on my level kind of guy. So they have those leaders in place, which is crucial. But I mean, this is really mostly about Kyrie, who is always had a reputation as being kind of a passive aggressive, quiet leader. He can't be that person anymore. He knows that he needs to be the person that is talking every single day, that is working harder than everyone else, which I definitely don't think is an issue with Kyrie. I mean, I've watched his pregame workout routine. It is the best that I've seen of any player in the NBA. It's incredible. But he needs to realize that being a great leader is about being the hardest worker out there and being the most optimistic and dedicated every single day. He needs to achieve that if they're going to do it, because he's the best player on this team, and he needs to show that he's working to be better than everybody else.
The final point I want to bring up with you, Jared, and I know you're an X's and O's type of guy. You watch the game very, very closely. The Celtics are going to play defense, I think, a lot differently than people have become used to under a Brad Stevens type.
You mean not as well?
No, a lot different. They're going to try, obviously, to play defense like Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors play, and that means off the ball, switching screens constantly, and that is how I think they're going to try to use Kyrie Irving defensively to maybe accommodate some of those weaknesses and address some of those weaknesses for Kyrie Irving.
You know, the funny thing about the weaknesses in Kyrie and Isaiah's game, they're a little bit different as far as defense is concerned. Isaiah would get exposed defensively by his lack of size. You know, we saw against the Wizards in the semifinals. Right. Otto Porter was posting him up relentlessly. Kyrie, but point being, Isaiah would fight through screens, do the kind of stuff that a point guard needs to do on defense. With Kyrie, his issue is that he's lazy getting through the pick and roll defense. He gets caught out of plays a lot, kind of similar to what we saw out of Rajon Rondo in his last couple of years, where he went from being an elite defender to just kind of playing when he wants to. Kyrie needs to be a good defender, especially as a point guard, where your job is mostly just to kind of keep track of the ball and get through all that stuff so that the defense doesn't collapse. For him, it's about just really reading the pick and roll, getting out there early and following through and fighting through contact. If he can do that, that can make them more effective defensively than they were even last year, despite that they're losing the on-ball value that Avery provides. And, I mean, Marcus is going to have to step into that role. People I've talked to with the Celtics are looking at Marcus to step into that role of defensive consistency and leadership that Avery provided. So I think that's one of the big things they're looking at. Gordon is a very good defender, so he's going to be able to provide that. Losing Crowder's versatility is tough. They're looking at Marcus Morris to step up his defense in the way they're looking at Kyrie to do it. If they get there from those guys, they're going to be, I mean, they weren't an elite defensive team last year. They became a more elite offensive team. They were, I think, 15th in the league in defensive rating or so. So as long as they maintain that, get a little bit better, they're going to be in a better position for this year.
I think, Jared, it's going to be fascinating to watch exactly how Brad Stevens gets the most out of this team, and so many different pieces coming into training camp in 2017. By the end of this month, we're going to start to see some of those indications, I think, from Brad Stevens, what he's been thinking about the last week or two, what the different pieces are going to look like when they mesh together. We'll have complete coverage on CLNSradio.com and CLNS Media Network. Be sure to hit it up there. He is Jared Weiss. I'm Mike Petralia inside TD Garden, and this has been the Garden Report powered by FanDuel.